Let's go to Perth, Australia and speak to Joe Siracusa, the Dean of Global Futures at the Faculty of Humanities at Curtin University. Joe, as always, thank you for your time. I'm not sure if Antony Blinken's words made too much of a difference if we consider that already 14 Palestinians have been killed in just about 2.5 hours since the truce ended.
Well, it's quite clear to me that Antony Blinken has nothing left to offer. I mean, he went as far as he could go. It's quite clear that the United States has no leverage over the government, the Israeli government. And, if you have a lot of power, you're the one who really is responsible for stopping what you're doing. And the Israelis are obsessed with getting these hostages back. So, and all that Netanyahu can do is resume hostilities, which goes nowhere. I mean, it's quite clear to me he's not going to wipe out Hamas leadership. And, as people who watch your show and other shows and see what's going on, it's quite clear the people own the streets. The people own that space. And those people, they don't want the Israelis there and they don't want the Palestinian Authority there, and they'll put up with whatever they have to put up. So that, in this sense, I think Netanyahu has lost the war as far as I could see. And I think this is the end of his career, because those who want the hostages back aren't going to put up with this. And those who want to finish off Hamas aren't going to get their way either. So I think that it's sort of an exit. Now, this tells you, of course, how weak Blinken's position is. I think this is his 4th or 5th trip there. Henry Blinken's a lovely guy, but he's not Henry Kissinger. When Henry Kissinger went somewhere, he not only had a gravitas, he had the ability to make things happen. It's quite clear that Blinken can't make anything happen as millions and millions of Americans go out on the street, not necessarily pro-Palestinian, but they want to stop seeing those women and children killed on the evening news. And so Blinken can't control that. So I think Netanyahu is on his last legs. He has no leg to stand on, actually. And I think President Biden has played his last hand here, because there's nothing he can do except now distance himself from the cabinet, the war cabinet, and say, look, in next November, he did everything he could for the Palestinians. And of course, he did nothing at all.
Apparently, there was lots of pushback in that meeting between Blinken and Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet, which, of course, is made up of different elements of Israeli politics because of the time that it's been formed. But when Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, told Antony Blinken, the Israeli public is behind us if we believe we need months to complete our aims of this conflict. And then Blinken said, well, we may not be. I mean, he's made it clear to the Israelis that they don't have the time that they think they may need to achieve their aims of destroying Hamas. So the more delicate moments may be coming in the weeks that are to follow.
Yeah, I think Blinken has put them on notice that the clock is running, that they're running out of time to do this. I mean, my goodness, they had 7 weeks to finish off Hamas, and it didn't happen, as a matter of fact. And the defense minister would have to say that, because what else could keep him in the room? If he didn't say that, he'd have to resign. So I don't think the Israeli public is behind this. At the end of the day, Israel will have to become a garrison state in order to survive next to 2.3 million people, or what's ever left. And they want to do that. I mean, 30% of the Israeli workforce has their reserve uniforms on, and this whole thing is going to leave the Israeli public, I think it's morally corrosive. A lot of people are not going to be trusting in these military solutions. Quite clearly, we need a political diplomatic solution. Of course, the two-state plan is as dead as the dodo. I mean, I don't know where that's going to come from. And then you notice there's no backers. And I have to tell you, I've been watching your show. I see all those people worried about climate change, and those same people are not talking about Gaza or the Israelis today. So, I mean, people in Palestine feel like they had been abandoned, and in many ways they have. No one's paying attention to this problem until it's too late. And believe me, it's far too late as far as I can see.
Have the Americans maybe boxed themselves into a corner, Joe, by sending those warships to the Mediterranean to show the extent of their support for Israel? Because if the Americans slightly change their positioning, it could encourage others. And I don't necessarily mean Hamas. I'm thinking about those other groups in the region who are trying to counter American influence in places away from Gaza. If they see some kind of retreat, whether it's a political or a tactical or some kind of message that Washington is trying to send, that could backfire on, of course, Israel and its alliance with the Americans.
Well, I think it has. You're quite right to point out there are a lot of groups who are going after American forces either in Syria and Lebanon and other places like that. That's quite right. And those ships were sent there to tell them to stand down while going on. But on the other hand, the United States has alienated the Arab and the Islamic world by this particular stand with Israel. So in a sense, sending those ships there has proved nothing except as an attraction or as target for other splinter groups that want to get even with American forces. And I think there have been 37 attacks on American civilians or military and bases in the 7 or 8 weeks, according to what I read in the New York Times. So yeah, they are there, but America's lost its credibility. The only thing America has now is the military capability to do something. Americans are not going to step foot into Palestine. They're going to leave this to the Israelis, and the Israelis have failed. And they failed their own public. And at the end of the day, we've got this disaster. And just look at Gaza. It is a basket case. Who is going to rebuild this place? Who's going to restore these lives? And the answer is nobody.
Joe, thank you so much for ending there, because as usual, my questions to you are always so long, but you unravel them so perfectly. Joe Siracusa, take care.